Okay, in this lesson we're going to focus exclusively on selection tools again, and your challenge is going to be to modify this original Hotake picture from this to this. And we're going to use a combination of selection tools to enable us to alter different areas of the picture and enhance certain features. So to start off, I'm here on the original, and we're going to select the sky and save that selection. I'm going to start with my magic wand over here, and I'm going to set the tolerance to about 40. You could try different levels of tolerance and see what type of effect you get with each. And don't forget, I'm going to put over here, you have different options for your magic wand tool. I'm going to put on add to selection, so that when I click over here, you notice it grabs a range of blues with a tolerance of 40, but I need to click on other areas that it missed. And that's why I have the add to selection on. So if I click up over here and down there, now it's hugging the buildings. Great. However, you want to clean up this selection because you'll notice that the selection often extended into the buildings. So I might want to, I have one of two choices. I could either go select, deselect, or Command D and start over and maybe put a tolerance level of 30. Come down here and start clicking, and I'm kind of respecting the boundaries of the buildings a little more. Not totally, but we can clean up the rest after. Okay, this is much better. Grab a few more fragments in there. Now we're going to clean up this selection. You're going to notice that down here it grabbed part of what appears to be the river's edge and certain parts of the building, like the edges of the building here. So we're going to clean that up by removing those areas that were selected as part of the sky. And I'm going to do that by switching to my Polygon Lasso tool, and in this case I'm going to put remove from selection as opposed to this option here, which is add to selection. I'm going to choose remove to selection. I'm going to start over here, click once, twice, 3 times, right there, and then come around and just draw an enclosed shape. You can double click when you get near your starting point and it'll just connect together. Over here the building, part of the building was snagged in our selection, so I'm going to go up here and draw right around the corner, move that from the selection. The top white part of the building here, and maybe come down the edge right along here, and let's see, up here, grab that little antenna, and then go back to my starting point, double click, and it's getting pretty clean. We have a little bit more over here, double click to join that enclosed shape. There we go. Let's flatten the roof out over here, and same over here. Just grab a piece of this. Okay. We also have these antennas on top of the building, so I'm going to click that, go a certain width, get to the top, double click, it joins. Same thing up here, bottom to top, and this little edge of the building. Okay. Not bad. And that was a quick way of selecting the sky. Notice I'm not grabbing all the antennas. I'm not too worried about them. Okay. How does this look over here? Maybe this last little building up here looks a bit deformed with our selection. I'm going to grab the edge over here. Go up around the top, down the edge. and the rest looks pretty good. Alright, so there we go. Let's zoom out. Command minus sign to zoom out. Oh, and I might want to go up the edge here, the side of the building. There, remove that selection. Oops, I did a little too much. Sometimes you got to zoom in. So now I'm going to go back to add to selection because I took a bit too much off there. Come back here. There we go. Okay, I've got my sky selected. Go to your select menu, save that selection, sky. Next step, we're going to unlock this layer. Double click on the lock in the background layer, and now we can modify the background. So I'm going to hit the delete key to delete the sky. Then I went to Google, searched under images, typed sky, and you can ask for a large image, which will give you more resolution in your image. I right-clicked and copied this, and I just going to paste it in here. Then I'm going to take my move tool and stretch it, holding the shift key so that it stretches symmetrically, and then hit enter when the stretching is done. And then I'm going to grab this layer with the sky and move it below the building, like that. Okay, now you're going to notice that there are a lot of yellows in this image, and there's a lot of red that is kind of coming through in the bricks of the various buildings. So I want to push out a little more, just accentuate those reds and yellows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select just the buildings. Now, theoretically speaking, we've already done this. Let me go back to my layer with the buildings, layer 2. If we go to select, load selection, we choose sky, we have the sky. We also have load selection, which was in an inversion of the sky, all buildings. And there's all the buildings. However, I don't want to touch this building on the side yet, so I'm going to remove this from the selection. I'm going to do that by going back to my Polygon Lasso tool over here, setting the properties to minus or remove from selection, and I'm going to click up here, and right along the line, the edge of the building, I'm just going to draw straight down. Now to slide your image up and down, if you put 2 fingers on your trackpad and just move the image up, it will scroll down like that. And I'll come over here, come back to my starting point, double click so that they join, and there, it's been removed from the selection. So the next thing that I'm going to do is, now that I only have the buildings selected, let's turn off the clouds just so you can see this more clearly. Now that I have only the buildings selected, I'm going to go to Image, Adjust, Use Saturation. And I'm going to set it to reds so that I'm pushing up only the reds. Watch, I'll go really extreme here so you can see the difference. Now that's a little too strong. You don't want to overdo it, but you can see the before and after effects. So I'm pushing up the reds, especially this building down here. You can notice it in the foreground. I'll probably go up to about, say, 60. And then I'm going to go to the yellows, and I'm going to push up the yellows. And you'll notice the difference right here in this building. Push that up to about 33. It also affected the yellows over here. I'll click OK for that. And I'm going to deselect. Okay, now I have 2 more things I want to adjust. The first is going to be the grass down here. There's some grass visible here. For this, we're going to use our masking technique. So I go down here, I turn masking on, I take my paintbrush tool, make sure it is a feathered brush, and using my open and close brackets, I can increase the size of the brush. Those are the 2 keys to the right of the letter P on your keyboard. Note that if you're on a French keyboard structure or anything like that, the open close brackets don't work. You have to be on an English keyboard layout. And I'll just paint over where I feel there is green. Take a smaller brush to go into these smaller corners, and then put it back to a larger brush. Same thing here, a little bit of a smaller brush. You don't have to be really precise for this, because I mean I'm zoomed in right now. Once you zoom out, you're not going to notice if you got spilled a little green on the sidewalk. It's not really going to show up. There's even a bit of green back here, but it's kind of in a darkened area. Okay, so I've drawn in a mask, which means protect the area, or this selected area will be protected. I turned the mask mode off, so right now this is protected. If I try to do anything to it, I can't. That means what is selected is everything else. Meaning if I took my paintbrush and tried to paint black, you notice I'm on the sidewalk. If I go in these areas, they're protected. Let me edit undo that. So what we want to do is inverse the mask, inverse the selection, so that, here I go, select, inverse. The shortcut is Shift Command I, right there. So that now whatever I do is applied to those areas. So I'm going to go to Image, Adjust, Hue Saturation. I'm going to go to Greens, and I'm going to push the greens up, like such. And now you will notice, let's do a before and after. That's before and after. Now the final area that I want to alter is the windows. So I'm going to go to select, okay, everything's deselected. I did Command D. I'm going to take my Polygon Lasso tool, and I am going to select just along the rim of the windows here. So I'm going to click here, very easy selection, right to the corner there. I'm not grabbing the cement frame, just the glass in this building. Now I happen to know that this building has a mosaic of colors, yellows, red, glass panes, and so on and so forth. So now that this is selected, I am going to go to Image Adjust Curves. You could use levels as well. I'm going to pull the curves up to lighten it. Click OK. And now I'm going to go to Image, Adjust, Hue Saturation. And I'll keep it on Master this time. And let's see what happens if I push the saturation up on Master. You'll notice even the blue window panes start to pop. So there, push the saturation up a bit there. Now I'm going to focus just on the reds and the yellows. So these are actually yellow panes in here, and I'm going to kind of punch that out a bit more. There you go. And same with the red window panes. And I'll click OK, and you'll almost notice that the reflections of the city, especially the red buildings, are really starting to come through on the window panes as well. Let's turn our clouds back on. Now you could get experimental and you could try different types of skies, like an orange sky or whatnot, and see how they look in here. Let me deselect. But essentially, this is what, as a practice technique, you could do with an image in terms of using various selection tools. We had used our square selection tool, polygon tool, our magic wand, and the masking mode, which we later inverted to select specific areas. And using the hue saturation and the curves under the image menu, we were able to then isolate those areas and adjust each one accordingly. So just to go back and do a quick comparison, this was our original image. And take a good look at the reds, yellows, the greens in the grass, and the panes over here, and look at the difference when we go to our modified image. So before and after.